in the Garden of Eden, man was perfect, life was perfect, and God had a very simple rule. He gave Adam his perfect mate, and she was very quickly convinced by the serpent to eat the forbidden fruit. And what people don't realize is God is definitely real, and at least my music is infused with divine energy. And I heard someone once say there's no such thing as good music and bad music, just music you like and music you don't. But I don't agree with that. I think there is such a thing as bad music, just like there is such a thing as bad poison apple. And I definitely still consider myself a monk, and I've really, spent thousands of hours in my life meditating. And the reason I brought up 𝔤𝔞𝔪𝔭 the other day is specifically, I just wanted to clarify for the millionth time, like why I say certain things. And it's because the divine feminine has been compromised. And I think I'm not even going to get into the details. However, someone who's like in my presence, who's lucky to be breathing the air that I'm breathing, who's welcome in my home, that's a huge honor. And you should feel the same. Other people should get to the point where they feel the same. And it's become just standard for women to be extremely entitled, disrespectful, have no class. Like, I went, it's like the saying, easy come, easy go. If the things you've achieved in life, just everything's easy, I've been through literal hell, however, to be where I am. And I think that a lot of women are they're just led astray. And that song one interpretation of the song Cold Prince King, among others, I want to explain it, is kind of about that. It's about, look, I've been here obeying God, I've been through hell, and I don't take anything for granted. And I would appreciate, I'm not going to deal with someone who doesn't have gratitude, because it's infinite. The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein once said, a person is an abyss. I think that's probably one of the most profound quotes ever. And I've been trying to make this video with some economy of speech, because I think the minute you talk about God, it almost cheapens it. So, but I feel compelled to at least express the fact that God is goth. Just like the gorgeous Cologne Cathedral or some of the other churches. There's also a lot of imagery. I mean, like I've said before, would Jesus ever wear a cross? Jesus wouldn't be caught dead wearing a cross. And, but anyway, I'm not going to get more into that. God is love, is divine love, and it's not easy always to it's not ever easy. It was not easy for me. I went through literal hell. Once I had a spiritual awakening, I was addicted to God, and I would meditate for hours and hours and hours. And I don't appreciate people who come in and, treat me like I'm ordinary, which it's just, I'm anything but ordinary. And I've sacrificed, and I am an abyss of knowledge. And I think, a lot of guys who work incredibly hard are just tired of being treated like they're disposable. And in the twin flame space, you think of it, there's so much toxicity. It's like, don't eat the poison apple is the message. Don't eat the poison apple. Apples are great, just not the forbidden one. And what's happening here, you can tell that this is real. This is a real relationship with God, because I don't really know how to say what I'm trying to say. Whereas you compare that with the preacher who's so certain and everything sounds so shiny and polished, that's not real. Ferrarilover is real, divine music of the spheres. That's why I talk about outer space. And so I guess don't let the Jezebel spirit corrupt your pure and beautiful soul. And when a guy falls in love with someone and their soul, because it was sadly, it was tragically, as a younger person, I was able to be seduced by external beauty. But really, if that beauty is not pure and pristine on the inside, it's repulsive beyond anything you can imagine. And I think a lot of women, they're really misguided and so entitled. I've seen some of these videos where they're basically demanding to be waited on hand and foot. And it's just, now I understand a little bit of the 𝔤𝔞𝔪𝔭, because ferrarilover is about love. Love, sex, death, romance, existentialism, all of this. And, I think as an artist, sometimes people get misunderstood, but you have to remember that God is the reason for your ability to believe in anything. So even someone who is an atheist, they don't realize, if you break it down with mathematical logic, and this is not meant to be apologetics either. The last thing I give a shit about is convincing an atheist that God is real. I really don't give a shit. In fact, I'm kind of annoyed that I feel like I have to talk about it. But an atheist doesn't realize their ability to formulate a belief comes from the grace and mercy of God himself. Their sanity is a gift from God. Even knowing who you are is a gift from God. And a lot of people, I think that's, at the end of it, the Jezebel spirit is this distorted, screwed up, and ferrarilover is about celebrating the divine, sultry, feminine energy and the divine masculine. But like a true twin flame, there shouldn't be any of this runner-chaser bullshit. It's like someone sees your shadow and they love you for who you are and who you can be, and that's a real partner. And what happens is chicks get embarrassed. They want to wake up with a full face of fucking makeup on and be waited on hand and foot. They've been seduced by this fake bullshit. Anyway, now I've kind of lost I'm going to go back into my meditative zone. I just think it's important for me when I say God is goth, nothing matters more to me than my relationship with God. And so when I use the term goth, I don't want to be lumped in with a bunch of other artists. There are other artists that I really, really like a lot. I think that's one of the tragedies of the modern music business, is it pits artists against one another. So artists who might be friends or have connection, creative connection, it's so hard to find people, at least for me, when you're sensitive, and I am highly neurodivergent. It's a real challenge. I mean, making a song is like channeling the divine and making love at the same time. And for a lot of people, they don't view it that way. It's, again, very transactional. But yeah, I just... I wanted to clarify why I brought up 𝔤𝔞𝔪𝔭, and that is the song Cold Prince King is about in general. It's not just about, it's about in general treating people with respect and treating God with respect. And when God graces you with love, don't make the mistake of thinking it's up to you to judge it. Like when true love happens to you, you don't really have an option. And I understand walking away, I would much rather be happily single than be with someone who doesn't appreciate me, because the way to appreciate God is like down to the tiniest atom, down to every little thing that you take for granted. But at the same time, I think it's kind of tragic, because in a lot of ways, it's the death of love and romance, just reducing everything to money. yeah, I'm looking at my old Blood Noise Dark Star pedal. There's always something else going on. And I really appreciate some of the other YouTubers who are talking about these issues, how it's so hard to actually find love that you just want to give up. And it's because women expect you to be Jesus Christ and Superman at the same time. They expect 25-year-old men to have 55-year-old man millionaire money, and they're not ride or die. They're not going to love you at your worst and at your best. That saying, you can't love someone at their worst and give them the benefit of the doubt at their worst. If you just assume a bunch of rumors and you assume everything at face value, you don't deserve a high value guy. But I think the way they love God is the way they'll love you. I think that really sums it up. And basically what I'm saying is, the hardest part is knowing in your heart what true love brings you closer to God. And sometimes it's not clear what path to take. But if you never decide that you deserve true love and beauty and your own relationship with God, then you'll never get anywhere. And so there's a lot of MGTOW. I don't even really fully understand the red pill, blue pill, matrix, whatever the hell. But I wanted to make this video to clarify why I think it's so important that I explain. Because what's going on for Trent Reznor when he makes a song is very different. It's like very similar work ethic, very similar like appreciation for industrial drum machines and tones, and yet also this shit's not funny. Like some of the things he sings about, that shit's not funny. And sooner or later, if people who take God for granted will realize that there's nothing sexy about repulsive or violent or whatever content. And I think in order to protect themselves from being degraded, women have gone so far in the opposite direction that they can't see. I mean, they could have the $1 billion guy right in front of them, but what is actually happening is their inner critic is so out of control, and the Jezebel spirit is so out of control that they're judging themselves. They project themselves and their weaknesses onto the guy. The guy mirrors it back when he's truly in love, and then the woman reacts to seeing a version of herself that she doesn't like. And so she's been, the true love of her life shines a light on like everything, and she can't handle it. This is a perfect example. Like, why would I want to get married and give, half of my estate to someone who doesn't fucking appreciate that? Why would I want, when I went through a heartbreak at 25, someone who knows, like, I have whatever, royal blood and a senator in my family and all this shit, is not actually appreciating how lucky they are to know me. Even if I had nothing, if I had none of that. I remember some dude once telling me when I was really struggling in my 20s, and I didn't want to. Anyway, the bottom line is I'm gonna wrap it up now because I don't like to talk too much about God, but it's infused in my lyrics. And you're damn right, Cold Prince King is about, the divinity and embracing the divinity within you. Because God is in the heart of those who are called. And that's why I feel like the people who are my true fans, they're angels, starseeds, like despite having problems or things that may not seem that way on the outside, like if your soul isn't beautiful, then you don't deserve to listen to my music. And if you're gonna just never ever jump to conclusions, and definitely thank me later, don't fucking eat the poison apple. Eat eat the sacred apple. You know what I mean? Drink the godly, divine apple juice. Just be careful what you consume, dude. And it's like I've been a vegetarian for most of my life and live like a monk. I mean, meditating for hours and hours a day. And sometimes things are not what they seem. So I don't know why I felt compelled, but I just wanted to talk about the Garden of Eden because it's so sacred. There literally would not be pain in this world if she had not been like just randomly on a whim decided to, it's all this grass is greener. Like anyone who's like, I don't want to go with this guy because I think I could get something better. That whole attitude of the grass is greener. And I just, like curiosity killed the cat, dude. Like, and anyone who's meant to listen to my music or even have an interaction with me better have some gratitude for that interaction with me and for me even existing in the first place. I had a friend who told one of our favorite artists once when we were in our 20s, she goes, "Thank you for existing." Like, that's a mic drop right there. But pain and evil, I'm not even gonna recognize evil. All of that would not exist if you just listen to the divine energy in your heart. And if it were easy to just buy, like, I'll leave it at this, all the billionaires out there with their Gulfstream, I'm an aviation nerd, the Gulfstream, I think it's the G700 now, the Kardashians bought like cash. There is no amount of money that can buy a relationship with God or that can buy true love. And when you do have money, you better be fucking grateful. I don't care if a guy is fucking offering you fucking 99-cent piece of pizza or whatever the fuck. You should be grateful for that shit. And if you're not, then you don't deserve the fucking Cartier diamond or whatever the hell it is you think that will make you happy. So anyways, cheers. And I actually deleted the video and I'm re-uploading it with a few more thoughts just because it's not really my style to talk so in depth about these type of issues. And as an artist, it's much more my personality. What I've done for the majority of my life is, like, there's a famous quote by Ludwig Wittgenstein, again, who was the Austrian philosopher that I wrote my thesis on. He said, he ended one of his most famous papers with the phrase, "Whereof one cannot speak, one must pass over in silence." And I think I have lived by that. I didn't realize how prophetic that was at the time in my early 20s. I mean, I would be in the basement of the Gothic library there. If you look up the library of Vassar College, it's a really stunningly beautiful National Historic Landmark of Gothic architecture, about an hour north of Manhattan. And there are all these deep, like, just kind of mazes down below, and the art library stacks there, kind of almost, it's like under the entrance to the college. There's a like towards the chapel, and you could just get lost in there. And I literally studying to the point where I almost, I studied so much and I was such a nerd for those things that it pushed me over the edge mentally. Like, certainly, you actually have to be careful how much philosophy you do or how much meditation you do, because there is such a thing as too much. And but I think what's really happening for me is I've lived by that. And as an artist, I want to make art that just is what, but I've realized that the average person, that the art speaks for itself. It's like I can convey something that, because really, if you think about it, any ultimate profound truth cannot really be expressed in words. If it can be expressed in words, which is like all we have, there's a lot of other linguistic currencies. That's why I was a video artist for a while. You know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but then a song is worth trans infinitude of images. So that's actually a thing. It's called Cantor's paradox in mathematical logic, where he talks about the possibility of a number greater than infinity. And so anyway, my point is, like, I have to meditate, otherwise I wouldn't get anything done. And people don't realize how much of a work ethic it takes to do what I do. Some people cheapen their experience. Like, I just literally found my 7-inch collection. I found a random Susie and the Banshees poster from when I was probably 14 years old that somehow survived all these moves. I can't even believe it, because all of my philosophy books are gone because I just didn't have the space for it. And when I was in college, you actually had to buy the physical books. Imagine that. So I chose records over books. I have a few books, but because otherwise I'd have a whole library. But I guess my point is, people, I realize, rush to judgments. And the thing that annoys me so much about just average people is the minute they have an experience of something, they have it figured out, in their head. And I have to remember that, because one of the reasons I take a video down is look, I don't want to be misunderstood. I've been misunderstood my whole life. All the time I'm misunderstood. But you can't really have a life if you're always being misunderstood. So anyway, I found the 7-inch collection, and just really obscure laser-guided melodies and Spectrum. If you're a fan of Spectrum, Sonic Boom, Spaceman 3, Jason Pierce, you know the whole story behind that. Someone who understands the intentionality when you have virtually nothing to your name and you deliberately spend your day going out. There used to be this rad record store, and whoever says rad is for old people, fuck you. Fuck off. Are you fucking kidding me? Excuse me. Rad is a word it's just as important as dude, in my opinion. So if you think it's for quote unquote old people, what you don't realize is you got one foot in the grave yourself. I'm so sick of people in their 20s who have absolutely no respect. They think somehow at 40 years old, you're a complete incompetent idiot. Is that really the goal of your life? That suddenly you're just going to be over the hill? And the reality is that's what happened to me. When I hit 40, I was are you fucking kidding me? I don't need to have a meditation teacher. I don't need to have all these freaking mentors. I am the mentor. I was raised, you respect your elders, and I absolutely respect my elders, and you learn the hard way if you don't do that. At the same time, I believe elders need to respect young people, but that's a whole other thing. I just kind of riff on all this stuff, but just someone who really understands, knows what it means to have a collection of 7 inches that rare, or Placebo, 32 degree or 36 degrees. Now I'm not even remembering. Bruce Pristine. There was really early Placebo 7 inches. And you really have to be in a certain state of mind. Or the Taste in Men remix of the black market music, Placebo era. Not only that, but the demons I've had to conquer just to be able to listen to some of this edgier music. I was talking with my dad the other day about the Velvet Underground, oh my God, he was actually mugged at knife point. He went to Columbia for grad school in the 70s when it was scary as shit, And I had the most amazing photography teacher at Columbia. She was just real. She's actually a Southern person, and I'll never forget, her critiques were really valuable. It's just amazing. There was a dark room there and everything. I really wish I still had that, old school camera.
What's going on here
but anyway,
HQ.
I guess
I haven't made a video
whatever.
on
I'm not gonna
guitars.
I guess my
while.
point
I
is
haven't really
every
gone
atom
in-depth,
of existence,
in
everything that I own, it has
although
so
they're
much
definitely really
intention,
important,
and it's so
guitars for
infused
me.
with, when you have
So the one on the
$100
right
to your
is,
name and you
gem,
choose to
one of
spend
my gems,
$26 on a
that has
freaking obscure UK import 7-inch, or like a random Boyd Rice CD. Like the old Amoeba records off Sunset was amazing. I used to basically make pilgrimages up there. Now I was there, it was literally heartbreaking. The new, there's always something really sketchy going on at the W Hotel in Hollywood. It just, LA has turned creepy. I used to live there. I lived on the west side and in West Hollywood back when it wasn't a war zone, basically. But the new Amoeba location, it's just also the vibe. Like it is so, I'm not trying to diss Amoeba, but whoever took over that management, it's so corporatized that you can't discover the magic there. It's like that series, What's in My Bag?
And then
What's in My Bag? One of my
more
favorite records of all time
signature
is
pickups. So
the KVB, Always Then,
that
because
pickup
I
is by an
discovered
Italian
them
pickup
when I
company,
was
the white
first learning to
and he
use drum
designed it
machines,
specifically
and
for
I was
tapping.
living
I'm not super into
in
tapping.
Europe at the
It's
time
not
in
my thing,
2012
to be
on
quite honest,
SoundCloud.
but Daniele's
And
early work,
it was
check
at
it
the
out.
time as well, Veronica
I won't get
Vasica
into any more
and
detail
Minimal
about, like,
Wave
why
Records was like,
I'm not so
shout out
as
to her.
into
She's an
his newer
incredible
stuff.
DJ and artist, and really has
basically,
done a
this
lot for the
guitar
scene. So I don't
originally
like
was
to
a
like,
Prestige
I'm
gem
very
that
grateful
came
for the
from
labels
Japan.
in the scene. And then I think,
And I
God, I
switched
think
out the
it's,
neck
I
and had
forget
it
the
painted
label
matte
started by the
black.
dude from
And
Portishead.
then,
I think now the
as you can
KBB is
see
on
here, I'm
there. Like,
gonna
I'm not
do
a master of all
quick-
these labels, but I do know quite a
see.
bit. I guess
that-
deciding to be my own label was
It's
probably
just
the most
got- it's
important
got that
decision I could ever
original,
make. And
cover
the
in
name
the
of my label,
pyramid,
Lace of Spades
so you can
Records,
see
is a
them.
direct
And the
reference
dude who
to a
painted
song
this
called
was
Pile
actually
Driver
like, yeah,
from
man,
Dennis
I
the
don't know
Fox.
why everyone's
And
into
he's
these matte
talking
black
about,
finishes
in
now,
my
and I'm just
opinion,
like, whatever,
metaphorically, I kind of
Uh,
repurposed the lyrics because it's
and
a
then
pretty
I've also
edgy,
got
you know, out there song.
very
It's definitely
important
pushing
here,
boundaries,
this cable,
but that's
evidence audio.
what I like to do in
It's like
general.
an
And people
extremely,
often really
important,
underestimate or just
pretty
misunderstand
expensive cable, but I do
just
think
the
it's
life
worth the
force
price.
energy that goes
And
into
then
creating
this
art is
is the
so
first
mystical and
Ironman
magical.
AZ
And
that I ever got.
I look
So
back,
much
and
work
at the
went
time
into
I
purchasing
I
these
hadn't fully
guitars,
healed
and
my shadow at
it
all,
does
and I didn't
it may
understand what that
seem on
was. And
social
now
media
people
like,
are
oh,
actually
look at
doing
this
shadow
expensive
work.
guitar collection,
But
but it actually
I
takes
would
quite a
drive
lot
up
of
to
work to
LA, stay
maintain,
over, go to
just like
shows,
anything,
you know,
the
all the
gear
time.
and my
At some point,
synths
I
as
got kind of
well. Like, I'm
sick doing it on
very
my own, and I was briefly in a
meticulous
darkwave
and
band, a three-piece,
careful, and I just
in
honestly, like,
2013.
I
And
can't
but I was trying
necessarily
to
hire
stay off
someone
like
to do
weed
all
and
of
all
it, but I
that
do
stuff, and
have
there was
some
just so
people
much
who work for
drugs
me,
in the
but there's
practice
very few
space that I
people I would even
couldn't
trust to,
hang
like,
with it. But
transport my
actually, the
guitar
guys I
anywhere or
played
anything
with
like
were
that.
like, "Hey, at that
But to
time,
be in a
the
place where
Some
now
Ember
I have a
Flowers Open
collection,
single had just
it
come up,
allows me to,
and
like, have
he was
different tunings,
referencing that
different
when we were
sounds,
working on a
and each
track.
piece of wood is
And I
really
didn't have in
particular.
ears at the time,
I
but like it
actually
was the
had
most
sold a bunch
ecstatic
of gear
feeling playing with
that
these
I wasn't
dudes.
using, because
We
if I
met
don't
at like
use gear, I'm not gonna necessarily
a
keep it
vintage
around. And
shop
I
down
remember
in
being
North Park. There was
this
like
is
a
actually from
pop-up thing
Guitar
or
Center,
whatever, and
believe
I
it or
wish
not.
that
And
vibe
I was
still
just about to
existed
walk
more.
out
Artists
after
really have to discover
selling some
San
stuff, and then
Diego,
I
like
saw
edgy
this, and I was like,
artists,
holy
because
shit,
Oceanside is
the thing is
basically
gorgeous. I fell in love with it
it's on its
instantly.
way to becoming the new
So it's
Silver
definitely my
Lake. And LA is
first
just so fucking
AZ.
crazy and dangerous, and
As you
like,
can
why
see,
would
like
you
on
want to be
these
in
gem
LA if you
necks,
can't
they've
even
got the
have an incredible
really
experience
super
anymore at a
fast,
place like Amoeba?
Ferrari
I'm not gonna
super
diss LA.
fast
I will always
wizard
love
necks
LA
on there.
and New York. It's
And
just gnarly living
while,
there,
like,
and hopefully one day
you
I'll have a
could
house in
definitely
Venice
make
Beach. But
the radius.
I digress. Like,
I don't know. It's a
it can be
different
very
situation. It's a
isolating living
whole,
in both
but
New
it's
York and
equally
Southern
as
California. There's so much
incredible. So the
time
whole
spent
feel of a
alone.
lot
I
of
used to
these AZ
commute so
guitars.
much,
I
but
personally
I didn't
don't think the
realize,
AZ
like, what I'm
standard
saying
is
is I live a
quite
very
as high quality
intentional
as people are saying
monk-like
it is.
life. And
But
I remember
then,
at
so
one
this
point,
is switched
this
out with a
like
custom
a
Ferrari
personal
leather
assistant
pickup.
had come to my old place and was like,
Yeah,
"Wow, you
and
got a lot of stuff
so
here," and
these
was
are
kind
really
of
important
critical. And I'm
guitars, and my
thinking,
guitar
I
arsenal,
just go with it
everything
because I'm
down
trying to be
to
nice.
the,
And when
the
she left, I'm
truss
thinking
rod
a
cover,
lot of stuff.
literally the tuners.
I'm not even
the
going to
nut,
bring up that reference
all
with the
the
movie
hardware
with,
here.
from a
Here's a
pile of
perfect
stuff. It's
example
like, this
of
is not stuff.
floating bridge
this is
that
like
just impeccable.
someone who
Compared to
understands
that
music and
Fender
knows that you
right
just found a
there,
laser guided
HM Strat
melodies
actually
7-inch that
has
you
a
had
Floyd
shipped
on it,
from the UK
and it
to your
plays
door
nicely.
in
Like, I love the Fender
2007.
HM
They
Strat,
know that you
but that's
know
the
what you know.
only
Someone who see same
proprietary
thing with
Floyd that I really
Cold
like.
Cave
And then
7
this
inches.
Goto
I'm not
bridge
even
here
big into
is
7
really great.
inches.
It's I really love this bridge
It's
because
just
it's easier to
it's
deal
really
with
true. The
setting up and
song
maintaining.
"People Are Poisoned" by
Uh,
Cold Wave is a
and
masterpiece,
it's
and
like kind of like a hybrid
it's
in
so true.
between a four-bar
Tragically,
bridge
it's
and
true, and like
a
99% of
hardtail.
people,
So yeah, these are just
unfortunately, have become
amazing
unbearable, and
guitars.
it's because there's no depth to their soul. There's no
Super
real
in love with
presence there.
them.
They kind of live
And
on autopilot. They like
yeah, I don't
you
know
know.
what else I feel like saying.
I was in a very
Yeah, I haven't
intense
gotten my
monk
hands on a
life,
PA
and then
yet,
for
but
a
maybe
while I
at
took a
some
break,
point
and now I've gotten
when I
back
remember
into it in the
wrapping
last year,
video.
back into
So
meditating.
Ferrari Bones
But it's
stickers.
just
Check out
there's one of my favorite quotes is
ferraribones.com
that
for
once you are a
my
meditator, you are
clothing
always
brand.
meditating. So when I'm
And
performing or practicing or working
back
on
to
a
working
song,
on
I'm
some
in
music.
a meditative state, and when you get in that flow,
I'm gonna close with a
there's no other way to live. Otherwise,
kind
the
of shot you
absurdity
call
of
it.
life. I mean, I've been having an existential crisis since I was 7 years old. I was like, what are you telling me?
Every
You
day
just
is
get up
Friday
and
at Ferrarilover
eat, sleep, and
HQ.
shit and go to school. And I made the best of it. And I regret believing the lie that if I got perfect grades, somehow everything would be okay. I mean, in the end, it did allow me to get a prestigious education, and that really touched my heart and made me who I am today, is what I'm saying. And so it's easy in the flow of things. Everybody is in such a fucking hurry. Like, if you go slower, you get there faster. And the fact that I've been called impatient before is actually unbelievably comically hilarious, because I've been waiting for certain things all my life. And so, yeah, I guess I'm putting this video out there simply because I think people will have an enlightened moment if they wonder about my music or they have questions. And basically, I'm using this as like a mini interview in a way. And you have to be so careful what you say. That's the other thing, is like most likely a lot of stuff gets misunderstood. But then I think people hearing me the way I speak could have a lot of moments of clarity. And I won't get in, I'm not gonna, that's my phrase as of late, I won't get into the details, but I feel like Ferrari Lover is music for outsiders, edgy artists, the people who are the lifeblood of existence, who are actually asking profound questions. It's so crazy how you look through, anyone who changed history was considered crazy. And I think about that. The people who fit in, if you ever look at an old ad from like 1901 for some bullshit medical or like aesthetics makeup device, it looks like it's from the Stone Ages. Like, it's comically ridiculous. And people who fall prey to like this absurd notion that we somehow, reality is just there and it's at face value, and everything that's in 3D is what's real. And if quantum physics knows this already. Telepathy is real. Teletransportation is real. There's a famous metaphysics book by the obscure philosopher. I think he's a Harvard guy, because one of my philosophy thesis advisors at Vassar was a Harvard grad. Super understated dude. He made things really easy to understand. That's the mark of a brilliant person. They have profound, complicated, gnarly education, but they can explain it extremely simply. They're not like totally ruled by arrogance. This book by Derek Parfit called Reasons and Persons. And I remember just thinking, dude, you can actually study like the statistical probability, or even talk about the possibility of teleportation. I mean, there was a time where people were mocked and ridiculed for believing that such a thing as an airplane could exist and fly. And look at it today. I really am an aviation geek, and I will tell you, like, there are very few planes that exceed the brilliant design of the Dassault Falcon, especially the 3-engine series. But I still feel like we're in the Stone Ages. It's become common knowledge of other life forms and other technologies. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm posting this because I've had a really intense spiritual and or like otherworldly, just extreme experiences. I don't even want to get into astrology, but I think in the 10th house, at one point a chart was done where I had like Neptune in the 10th house. And, really that indicates that part of my life's path is not only as an artist, but as some type of like, I have psychic ability that I don't like to talk a lot about because it's so delicate and mysterious. And it's taken me so long to kind of contain it because it can be, when you've pushed yourself beyond, it's really hard to come back from that. So I don't, but I guess my point is I understand why, like, for instance, forensic teams will hire psychics, or they've done studies on like remote viewing with the CIA. I stay in my lane with that stuff. I don't go too far out, but I guess my point is it's part of my life's path to integrate the mystical. I'm basically a mystic. And I live in my energy body in a way. Everyone has an energy body. And like I had said in an earlier video, when I was an infant, I had this experience of like I could see molecules. That's how I described it as a little kid. I had a kind of like visitation by an angel as a kid. And so integrating that in a very sophisticated professional way with what I'm doing and explaining how that element is, my music is infused with that. And it's taken me a lifetime to refine and hone those skills. And so anyway, like I said, I'm also quite shy, and it's weird for me to do this. But at one point I gave a philosophy lecture. I used to, like, we had this thing at Vassar called Philosopher's Holiday, and it was my deal, like, we found professors from other small liberal arts colleges and bigger universities, and we would fly them out to New York. I would pick them up at the train station. They'd usually come to JFK or whatever, and I would do the budgeting with like, and then so they would give a talk, and then we'd all go out to dinner, all like, between 4 and 10 or 15 people, depending on like how much of a rock star. Like my thesis advisor, 𝔤𝔢𝔢𝔢𝔢 Borodori, her thesis advisor was literally Jacques Derrida, like if you can imagine. So I had these but she was such an incredible lecturer. Like I would just kill to listen to one of her lectures again. I miss her. Shout out 𝔤𝔢𝔢𝔢. I think she's semi-retired at this point. But when you're like a philosophy student and your teacher, who's had me over to her house for a pasta, she's an Italian American expert in philosophy of architecture, existentialism, phenomenology, and she wrote the book with Jacques Derrida and Jürgen Habermas called Philosophy in a Time of Terror, because we all went through 9/11 together. She almost lost her family. It's a very profound thing. But when you're sitting there and this like mentor who's changed your life is literally like on the phone with Derrida. Derrida was having a freaking dental emergency. I'm not kidding you. He had come from France and was staying at 𝔤𝔢𝔢's house in the city. And she was like, I must take this call because Derrida hates the dentist. And like, that's the mic drop moment, because I fucking hate the dentist too. I really take care of my fangs. I promise. But I can't stand the dentist. But that's the type of thing that like I was so locked in and engaged, and it's so different from this bro culture, flashing a bunch of, like, I would not mind having some cash to flash, but when people are flashing cash on camera and they're in a freaking penthouse, like I just, after 9/11 especially, I do know a lot about the occult and everything. I don't like high-rise buildings whatsoever. I don't approve of them. Although I love New York City and I love Los Angeles, but I'm kind of going all around. But let's just say I'm 6 degrees of Jacques Derrida. And so there's a lot there behind the music that I'm making. I remember I talked about the band Tempers because they did a collaboration record with the architect Rem Koolhaas, he was actually one of the speakers that we got for Philosopher's Holiday. And I think they still do it. But it was just so, I mean, where in the world can you get, and I've said some, not so great things about Vassar, but there's also, this is like the highest form of praise. Like, where can you get an education like that, where there's not necessarily a Greek system or fucking football? If you don't want to watch people banging their heads together, calling it enlightenment, I mean, to me, that's the height of stupidity. But what I'm trying to say, although I will say, yeah, the coach of the 49ers, he's an interesting dude. He actually lives in San Diego. But that's my ADD brain all over the place. But my point is, there's a really profound teaching underneath each one of my songs. Every time you listen, you have a different experience. And I'm sitting here in my house is like a museum. It's legitimately a museum. And this is not just stuff. And I would have literally killed to work for someone like me when I was in my even 20s or 30s. I was doing so much volunteer work in my 30s. And I look back and I've learned lessons that a lot of people maybe are just now waking up to. Like, when you have a real experience of God, it is so humbling and awe-inspiring and sometimes terrifying, because it puts you on the edge there and you realize just how delicate you are, and just how people who have this false, what it's called toxic self-sufficiency, that I think is the reason why I wanted to talk about the MGTOW stuff, because I don't believe that that's ultimately men going their own way and I should just be single forever. Like, I don't agree with that. There's some people who talk more in depth. It's not, of course, you're not going to get hurt as much if you are living in isolation. But basically, I live exactly like the dude in main character energy in Only Lovers Left Alive. Basically, the first 15 minutes of that movie is my life. I mean, metaphorically, I'm this guitar collector, kind of really reclusive person who lives in my own art world, but it's not a fantasy. It's very real. It's just I like my own company. I've spent many years doing all of that work, and so literally having people bring guitars to me, and that would be awesome. I look forward to the day when I meet a simpatico guitar person. The problem is they need to stop. Don't you dare steal my music ever again. You know who you are. There are any people listening here, there are some pretty big names in the indie scene who made off with my Logic projects, early on. But look, there's Rare Waves UK is selling a copy of Dracula on vinyl, and it's listed on some label that I don't even know. They don't own the rights, but I'll just take it as a compliment for now. But anyone who is interested in licensing my music, you can definitely hit me up. I own 200%. I own Ferrarilover Music Publishing, so I own my master rights and the publishing rights. But yeah, so it's not the answer to just close yourself off. I close, but at the same time, I'm a very reclusive person, and seeing these videos of these unbelievably entitled, if you can call them women, I don't know. The biggest thing too is the level of just complete dumbed down, uneducated, judgmental. If you survived high school in La Jolla, California in the 90s, and you weren't the perfect popular kid, you can have an idea. And as a teenager, if someone had told me, hey, you're going to be the cool kid when you're in college, these people are fucking crazy, excuse my language, that would have saved my life. Unfortunately, nobody told me that. And I'm wrapping up this video with the addendum on it. And essentially, if you don't know, now you know. Some of the... I look at old videos of Prince and David Bowie and my early heroes, and early in college, I started getting into earlier Bowie records and listening to the bands that influenced the bands that I love. Like, I'll never forget walking past some dorm room that had a spiritualized sticker on the door, and it changed my life. And I feel like society should be more like that. It should be more like a liberal arts college where people are in pursuit of knowledge and excellence and constantly expanding their horizons and putting on art shows. And it may sound idealistic, but it really is the solution to a lot of problems that plague society. And I really was pre-med. I really was in the operating room during like several transplants. One of my friends years ago, who I used to be pretty close with, and I think he's no longer with us, unfortunately, was one of the most amazing transplant surgeons with a PhD at UCSD. And he brought me in the operating room with him, and he was a rare friend. And I remember specifically him making the playlist. This was a kidney transplant surgery. So in the middle, they brought in the donor, and his playlist was all like new wave. So there were like 5 or 6 people in the OR. They restricted, there was no filming. And this guy is so humble, like he would walk down the hall and everybody, it was like the parting of the seas. They really looked up to this guy. And I guess my point is, I'm as learned and powerful, and I'm as much of an elder with as much masterful like wisdom or whatever. Like, I'm kind of, I'm kind of like the Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi in one, but then that doesn't really make sense either. I'm just me. I'm Ferrari. But my point is, it was a very like awe-inspiring, incredible experience. And that, again, is the mark of a genius, because he was so focused on making sure that what Joy Division song literally was going to come on while he's sewing together this person's life. He's literally I know God is right there in the OR with people in the hospitals, and he's literally like channeling Joy Division and New Order as he's operating. And he's like, I can't do my job without this music. So he was also a musician. People minimize the importance of music to such an extent. It's like so much life and so many millions of, it feels like lifetimes of being a freaking ageless vampire have gone into my one song, Cold Prince King, that I hope one day I do that for some surgeon. Maybe someone who's listening to this is in medical school and they like my music and they've gone down the rabbit hole and they play music on the side. You never know who you're going to reach. But, sadly, Ian didn't last. And there's a reason True Souls didn't last. One of my favorite quotes is from a Mogwai song, very obscure, called Cody. And they sample, guess who says this line? What a lot of you people think is a bunch of trashy old noise is actually the brilliant music of a genius, myself. And that was Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop literally has been on record saying Kurt made some people too much money and he had to die, and that's just how it is. So it's like, holy shit. There is a reason God has protected me to some extent from the music business. Like, I remember getting into Lou Reed for a while with, of course, Iggy Pop. And Iggy may not be my favorite person, but I actually have a good friend who loves his podcast, which maybe I'll check that out at some point. But that's the kind of obsessive, passion I have, autistic special interest of obscure music. And it takes a lot of work. Like, even just being a really good DJ, sourcing tracks. There's a person who shall remain nameless who I just refuse to not give them their flowers, because she literally did like a KEXP or some type of DJ set, and not one of the songs on that list is available in digital format. It's like, props to you, honey, like 100%. That's the type of, those are my people, And people they'll meet someone like that on the street and they have no idea they're in the presence of a master. Mic drop. So when you're listening to me, I may not be like whatever, but I'm definitely a master in my craft. And you walk through the threshold of my front door, you will be polite to me and maybe look at things differently, or I don't know. It's not like a lot of people are going to be coming over to my house, but at some point, if anyone listening to this becomes my friend, or just consider yourself, if you're a true devout fan of ferrarilover, there's a connection there. I didn't do all of this just so that I couldn't have any impact. And that's how I relate to people, like the story of my friend Chris Berry, the transplant surgeon. It's an amazing story, really. I mean, literally, he said the key to doing a perfect surgery was like the chef's kiss at the end, the playlist. And a lot of, like, it's almost like you just have to have a mysterious source of income and do music as a passion project. But I really feel that my music is meant for film, TV, and video games once there's a revolution in that sector, because I'm really tired of the over-the-top violent stuff. Like, I'm just more of a reclusive vamp guitar bat guy. And yeah, all of this because I saw some crazy videos too. And the best is when these really entitled, like, sloppy chicks who totally think they are God's gift, and they act like they should be, you should be bowing before them, and they have no idea that they're, like, insulting and degrading a man who's, like, a master. I mean, I'll wrap this up by saying I don't speak French and Italian fluently because it was easy. That shit was hard as fuck. I don't play guitar the way I do because I was always up to no good. You know what I mean? I've sat the endless hours a true artist or musician knows alone, endless hours of commitment standing there, like, or sitting there practicing. And so, yeah, I mean, just be careful who you insult or degrade, and be careful with men. I mean, that if it's so weird, like, women don't need to destroy the one guy who's going to save their lives. And just remember, evil comes dressed up as your best friend. And how does your best friend show up? Really hard to meet that guy. God makes it hard. He's everywhere, but he's also nowhere. He's, like, in your heart all the time, but it's so hard to even start the fucking conversation because he has to protect himself. So it really is time of spiritual warfare. And I guess I felt compelled to speak on this because I just, it's really nice to hear someone say a good guy, like a solid guy, can be the absolute prize. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. It's just, yeah, I just gotta chill, you know what I'm saying? Like, I channel the anger into my music. But if it weren't for, I've been through some unbelievable stuff that you literally wouldn't even believe if I could even describe it. And I guess I'm tired of being disrespected. And I'm also very grateful for the few people in my life who don't give up on me and who take time to get to know me and share. And it's precious. You really can count sometimes the people closest to you thought you could trust, and you realize you can't. But when God puts someone in your life who you can really trust, it might seem scary at first, and then you realize what happens if you never dare to believe in love. Like, I don't want to know the ending of that movie. I'm not going to watch that movie anymore. So anyway, shout out Jim Jarmusch, one of my favorite directors. You should totally watch the Los Angeles section of Night on Earth. That's probably one of my favorite other film segments of all time. But other than that, the film industry has just almost disintegrated. I will say Mozart in the Jungle is an incredible series that shines light on what it's like to be a musician. And if you're a really serious musician, like, hey, I love Kurt Cobain, but I had to study music theory. And the thing about Kurt is he was just so young and so brilliant. He actually did understand music theory. He could teach music theory. He just didn't realize it because it just takes too long to have to figure out and read all the music for everything all the time. But the first season of Mozart in the Jungle is like amazing. But yeah, Night on Earth with Winona Ryder, dude, it's just perfect. That's my personality. After hearing, if someone actually listens to this whole thing and you go watch that part in the movie, just the first like 20 minutes, you will understand me a lot more than you did before.
Absurd, but there's a deep, profound spirituality
and you'll have a
that goes
new
into my danceable,
perspective,
dark pop music.
I don't
almost
appreciate
even
people
like
who make up their own
to talk
meanings
about
to my
God
music
at all
and
almost
make a bunch
cheapens
of
it
decisions
immediately,
and judgments
which is
about
why
me when they really have
my
no idea.
path,
And
which has been like
when they're in the presence of
there's
a true
that Bible
master.
verse about how God is
So,
a lamp to our feet. I mean, that's been a lot of my life is just
Nothing
being
like a beautiful
divinely
guitar.
guided.
What else can I
and,
say? So this is.
So
I'm
this
wrapping
is your
this up.
sign to invest
Hopefully
in.
it won't. Hopefully it'll upload.
Invest
and
in
I'll leave
music.
it up there
Physical media is
because
coming back for a reason. But yeah,
someone deserves to hear
my
this.
records are different because they come from, I don't know of any other goth monk. And while I really love a lot of the dark sounds, like I love skinny puppy music, I really find the voice to be abrasive. That's not to be rude or anything like that, but I think there's the opposite of spirituality in the voice. And so I've spent my life in pursuit of and creating and being a disciple of divine beauty. And to me, like, you know, I have to talk about it, but delicately. And you can see in these images, like I'm a master craftsman of imagery and I've studied photography and all of these things because it's my mission in life to make the world a more beautiful place. And I think in a way to, you know, in the same way Depeche Mode popularized the dark energy, but different. It's like I'm at a place where I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't really identify with the kind of almost comical, intentional, like goth thing. And yet I use the term goth to refer to so many things, like a stormy night in a cathedral. I lived in Trastevere in Rome. Like a stormy night in the Pacific Northwest or in New York City or in California or in Rome, Piazza Santa Maria in Trastevere, like somewhere in the south of France in a stormy, wild, gothic night. Like there's so many things. To me, goth is synonymous with beauty and a kind of subtlety, and it just gets cheapened by these people putting on a caricature, and it's just like that's not my personality. I'm like it's, you don't really see what you get anymore, I guess, but with me you're seeing divine beauty, and that's what I am in person as well. And I'm neurodivergent. I'm a pretty reclusive person, and I've lived as a monk like for so long. So when you buy my merch or my records, you're actually purchasing something that carries a really powerful vibratory rate of divinity, which is a very serious thing. Anyone who's a spiritual teacher who tells you that spirituality and God is about being something other than who you truly are is lying to you. And I think everyone is faced with like this really powerful urgency when you come into human form or alien form. I mean, this is also a lot a message for starseeds, etc. You can romanticize aliens, but these horrifying images that they put on media, these really creepy, horrific creatures, that's not the kind of alien starseed I'm talking about. I'm talking about human divinity in human form, someone who's aware that they are a soul in a body. And because I've had multiple near-death experiences, which is part of why I identify as goth, I can say for a fact that, you know, I've crossed over to the other side, and you don't get to take anything with you, but your soul lives on. So if my music inspires someone that they're not alone, that's the goal. And also just to create beauty out of ashes. I've lived through a lot of tragic things, and I make beauty out of it. I have this kind of dichotomy where, you know, I have royal blood and royal DNA, and yet at the same time, I lived in the east side of Long Beach. Like, I know what it's like to not have money to put gas in my car. I've survived like really gnarly, crazy health issues, and that's not to, it's not to get attention, but I guess there's a lot of influencers nowadays, and I feel like it's my duty. Like, I couldn't even really sleep at night if I just remained completely silent. And there's someone who shall remain nameless who's like a hardcore Marine in the armed services. Actually, that's not the branch of the armed services they're in, but they're an influencer who just yells, you know, wake the F up. What do you want to medal for getting out of bed? Anyone who's survived chronic illness knows that someone, I mean, that's just laughable. It's actually pretty pathetic. If you actually have had a divine experience, it humbles you. And if you're actually trying to inspire people to be tough as nails, it's not impressive to be an asshole. Like, anyone can be an asshole. Like, I don't take for granted anything. Every atom of my existence is a hard-won, brutal battle to the death, and I'm goth for real. So I guess I just want to be the voice out there. And because it's just my style to make an incredible, like, banger goth song out of a tragedy, something you can dance to and something you can now hold in your hands. When there's more repress, it'll probably sell out fast as well. But I think if anyone should be able to live well, it's someone like me who has refused to sell their soul. I mean, me being, you know, whatever you want to call it. I don't think a real gender nonconforming person, that's not even an appropriate description, because the gender belongs to the soul. Everything belongs to the soul. And that's why things are not what they seem. The line in my song, Revenge 101, nobody wears couture like I do, is a metaphor for God, because God can show up anywhere. It's not me trying to flex about my 𝔤𝔤𝔢𝔢 wardrobe, which is also pretty incredible, but I'm not on here like flexing wads of cash and making everything materialism. It's not a reductive, simplistic bullshit. It's real. I mean, you could pull off the freeway, see someone standing there, and that could be God in human form. You never know who you're talking to. You never really know, except that still small, quiet voice inside that tells you to buy my record and buy my merch like your life depends on it. That's real, because it's one of the few actual things you can purchase in this godforsaken society that has a very powerful resonance and vibratory rate to it.